The agenda or the minutes for, let's see, for 12/7/22, 8/17/22, and 9/7/22. Are there any comments from the commission on these minutes? Not hearing anything. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Next item on the agenda. So this is continued to 9/06/2023, the next meeting. This is a public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc. of Andover, Massachusetts, on behalf of Yvonne Cormier of Vale Street, Assessors Map 112, lots 23, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. DEP file number 305-1154. If you're here for that, we're not going to be discussing it today, but we will be discussing it at the next meeting. So could I have a motion to continue this notice of intent, 305-1154?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Next item is Agenda Item B, request for certificate of compliance, John Coleridge, 30 Joanne Drive, Assessors Map 56, Lot 221, DEP file number 305-780. Is there anybody here for that? Not seeing anybody rise. Joe, were we expecting anybody, or could you fill us in on anything?
Yeah, we were expecting the applicant to be present, but I can speak on it if you'd like. It is I think, straightforward. So this was a request for a certificate of compliance. It was for DEP file 305-780. It was for an order of conditions that proposed an addition onto a single-family dwelling, in addition to the increase of the width of the driveway. The work just had never occurred. I had done a site visit to confirm that the work never occurred. And so just comparing what was proposed on the site plan to today, that has been confirmed. So the commission may issue the certificate of compliance as an invalid COC.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Nothing.
Nope.
All right. This seems pretty straightforward, so could I have a motion to issue the invalid COC?
No, I'll make the motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Agenda item C, request for certificate of compliance, John Berube, 58 Water Street, Assessors Map 94, Lot 162. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Good evening, John Barabee, 2543 Main Street, Tewksbury.
And what would you like to do today?
I'd like to get a certificate of compliance.
Can you walk us through?
Well, I came in, I don't know, I guess it was the end of last year, maybe December or so, and the proposed was to demo an existing structure and rebuild a single-family home on the lot.
Joe, or does anybody on the commission have any questions or comments about this one?
Nothing.
Joe, do you have anything you'd like to discuss?
Nope, so it was pretty straightforward. The applicant had provided an as-built letter of substantial compliance from a professional land surveyor or engineer. So I did a site visit, so I have no issues.
All right. Just give me 1 second. All right, if there's no further discussion, could I have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Agenda item D, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Mark Shea of Valley Monuments, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 592 Main Street, Assessors Map 34, Lot 34.
That's pretty cool.
It's a good place for it.
Is that good for viewing? Yes. And can you just introduce yourself for the record?
Yep, Kevin Fleming from Cypress Design. We did the surveying and the engineering work for the project. So basically, the entire site is developed already. It has a dwelling and a barn, also a driveway. So in the proposed building is going to be 45 by, I believe, 55 total for the new building for the Valley Monuments, and with parking spaces also. We're encompassing the entire property with silt fence, basically silt sock, to prevent any runoff into the wetlands or abutting properties. Again, the disturbance in the buffer zone, based on the GIS maps, is about 3,800, and that's existing and proposed. We're going to have a few construction entrances too, also, for the project. And if there's any, I don't think there's any catch basins in this area, down gradient, but if there is, we're going to put filters on those catch basins. So we're maintaining the same drainage patterns as existing and incorporating 18 Storm Tech infiltrators for the rooftop runoff, and also a section of porous pavement for the parking lot layoff runoff. Also, we're showing the stockpile area and the snow storage areas on the plan themselves. We're reducing peak flows, the volume, and increasing recharge and quality on the project. That's it.
All right. You said you're going to have construction entrances. Is that a temporary entrance, or is that going to be?
Just a temporary, yeah, yep, for the work.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Seems pretty straightforward. Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
Nope, I think the applicant kind of touched on everything. As it's proposed, there's a perimeter sediment controls, and touched on the silt sacks and the catch basins as well. So I think as it's proposed, the commission may issue a negative determination of applicability. I'll note that, I guess technically the stormwater standards do apply just because it's a commercial or redevelopment. But the stormwater isn't being discharged to a wetland resource area or within a jurisdictional area. So I think this process is okay.
All right. All right, this is a public hearing, so if anybody would like to get up and make any comments, now is the time to do so. Not seeing anybody. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Mark Shea of Valley Monuments, Tewksbury, Mass., 592 Main Street, Assessors Map 34, Lot 34?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give him a second. All right. Agenda item E, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Stephen Collaroo of Milltown Plumbing and Heating, Chelmsford, Massachusetts, 19 Country Club Drive, Assessors Map 13, Lot 30. Is there anybody here for that? Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Fred Webster, Milltown Plumbing.
And what would you like to do today?
We're looking to connect a main line sewer to city sewer at 19 Country Club Drive in Tewksbury. It's currently on septic.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Nope.
Joe, do you have any questions or comments about this one?
Not really. I think it's pretty straightforward. The work zone is just located in a riverfront area. There's a perennial stream in the back of the property. So there's a 200-foot area from that perennial stream that applies. So it's about like 170 feet away from the stream, so I don't think there's a need for, sediment controls. It's just in riverfront area, but it's all temporary work, so I don't have any issues.
All right. This is a public hearing, so now is the time if anybody would like to stand up and make a comment about this application, now is the time to do so. But not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Stephen Collaroo of Milltown Plumbing and Heating, Chelmsford, Massachusetts, 19 Country Club Drive, Assessors Map 13, Lot 30?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. Agenda item F, public hearing, request for determination of applicability. Isaac Reyes, 36 Shady Lane, Assessors Map 99, Lot 78. Is there anybody here for that? Joe, were we expecting anybody, or should we table this?
I think we were expecting the applicant to arrive, so
All right.
might want to table it.
All right, we will table this to the end. In the meantime, agenda item G, public hearing, request for determination of applicability. Joe Rosinski, 9 Redgate Road, Assessors Map 112, Lot 53. Is there anybody here for that?
Same thing. I was expecting them to come, so I want to table it.
Agenda item G will also be tabled. Agenda item H, public hearing, request for determination of applicability. Eileen Caulfield, 61 Geiger Drive, Assessors Map 99, Lot 90. Hello. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Eileen Caulfield, 61 Geiger Drive.
And what would you like to discuss today?
Replacement of the driveway.
Replacement of the driveway. Could you go into detail about what that involves, so from your perspective?
Well, it needs to be totally ripped up. We'll need to put some French drainage in. It leads into a previous, what was a cul-de-sac. So we will have to, a portion of it belongs to the town, but I'm just going to fix the whole thing. But the top quarter grade does lead back. So that would not change because we'd have to dig into the whole thing. But it's a major disrepair. Frost heaves, it's at least 50 years old.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
Joe, how close is this to wetlands? I don't see any drawing depicting the wetlands or any resource area.
So if the commission recalls, there was an RDA, maybe the last meeting, the meeting prior for a deck. So this was a deck that was about 30-ish feet away, and the deck is closer to the wetlands than this driveway. So the primary thing that triggered this to be filed is the fact that it's in the 100-year floodplain. I guess my comments to the commission is just to as long as the driveway doesn't alter the existing topographic conditions, then it shouldn't, it would just be viewed as kind of like a temporary alterations, because we just wouldn't want someone to kind of be filling in the floodplain, which wouldn't be likely for a driveway repair, but
Is the plan to put the driveway exactly where it is, just new asphalt?
Just extending just slightly because it's very narrow.
Okay.
so are you replacing some of the, are you ripping up some of the existing lawn and replacing it with the drive and
Yes,
putting drive?
yes.
Okay. So that's where the existing topographic conditions would need to stay the same.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, as long as you don't change the grade, right?
all right.
Yeah.
So,
It's not we're not going to do that, no.
so the remainder of my comments, if the commission were to issue a negative determination of applicability, they may do so while considering the following conditions. Installing and maintaining sediment controls, which shall include of a properly entrenched silt fence and/or staked straw wattles around the area of construction, as to prevent the deposition of sediment from construction activities into nearby wetland resource areas. Sediment controls shall be installed prior to construction activity commencing and shall remain in place until all areas of disturbed/loose soil and other erodible materials have been stabilized at the site. So basically just installing sediment controls around your work zone prior to the work
So
beginning.
that nothing runs back.
Correct. And then the second condition would be photographs shall be provided by the applicant to the conservation agent after the work has been completed. A follow-up site visit may be conducted by the conservation agent. So just provide photographs once the work is completed. You can just send them to myself via email. And if warranted, I may do another site visit.
Okay.
All right?
All right, so this is a public hearing. If there's no other questions or comments from the commission, I will open it up to the public. If anybody would like to make a comment, now's the time to do so, but not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. 1 second.
One out of this hot seat, no I'm kidding.
Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Eileen Caulfield, 61 Geiger Drive, Assessors Map 99, Lot 90, as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you for your
So
time.
I'm approved?
Yeah,
Okay.
The negative is good.
yeah,
Oh, that is good, all right, I like that. Thank you very much,
Applicant
gentlemen.
for agenda item G is here.
all right. All right, we'll go back to agenda item G, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Joe Rosinski, 9 Redgate Road, Assessors Map 112, Lot 53. Could you introduce yourself for the record?
Hey, everybody, Joe Rosinski. I live at 9 Redgate Road.
And what do you plan on doing?
So just rehabbing the pool, taking out a retaining wall, and regrading, replacing the pool.
Any comments or questions from the commission?
So there was a sketch provided, kind of, I don't think it's in the meeting packets, but
And I do apologize, that's my absolute best attempt to convey what we're doing. So I used old site plans for the septic back in the day.
Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
So my comments are that I did do a site visit. I can confirm that the wetland boundary relative to the fence as shown on the sketch is about 50 feet. And so the grading, to my understanding, is going to occur basically up to that fence line. So the closest this proposed work is to the nearby wetlands is 50 feet away. The pool, it's an existing in-ground pool, so it's just rehabbing an already built in-ground pool and the patio around it. So that work is more or less an exempt activity, considering that it's greater than 50 feet away. So it's more or less just about the retaining wall and the grading. It's between the fence and the wetland is an embankment, but it's pretty well vegetated. So
very well.
Yeah. So there's just some decent protection against, sedimentation if the work were to occur. So it would be, I would leave it to the discretion of the commission to recommend sediment controls in this area.
So it's hard to tell from the photos, but you think the fence is good enough? for
The
sediment
fence and the existing vegetation is pretty dense. And considering the rains that we had, there wasn't any sedimentation.
Yeah.
The abutter notification, was that
Oh, yeah.
satisfied?
Yep, so that was an old note, but it was satisfied as of today.
There.
The recommendation I would make to the commission if they were to issue a negative determination is to have the applicant, let me just read it. Photographs shall be provided by the applicant to the conservation agent after the work has been completed. A follow-up site visit may be conducted by the conservation agent. So again, just send photos after the work has been completed, and I'll evaluate whether a follow-up site visit is needed.
No problem.
All right, excuse me, if there's no further discussion from the commission, this is a public hearing. Now's the time to get up and ask any questions or make any comments. But not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. And could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Joe Rosinski, 9 Redgate Road, Assessors Map 112, Lot 53, as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joe. Great working with you. Thank you.
Agenda item I, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Matthew Poirier, 15 Woodside Terrace, Assessors Map 85, Lot 70. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Sure. My name is Matthew Poirier, 15 Woodside Terrace in Tewksbury.
And what would you like to discuss today?
We we purchased a piece of town-owned property that was immediately adjacent to our home. We did some clearing of that property, and then we installed a pool, and that's when we filed for the pool exemption, and that's when Joe came out and did a site visit with us. We're just looking to essentially clear that piece of property with a bit of adjacent space, and then basically landscape both our current existing property and then the newly purchased property as well.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
How close is this work to the wetlands? I don't see that on the sketch provided.
I didn't sketch it out.
Yeah, I can provide some comments.
It's actually my husband. Could I join him up front?
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have our landscaper here.
I just, if you have to introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you. I'm Grace Poirier, and I live in 15 Woodside Terrace, Tewksbury.
All right, continue.
Thank you. So we actually brought in our landscaper because we wanted to make sure that we could intelligently explain the situation. I believe
You
if
can
Lisa
also
could.
pull up a chair and
Thank
just
you.
introduce yourself.
Fine, Stan, thank you. I am Lisa Fudge, owner and operator of Affordable Landscaping in Billerica, 32 years. We actually started the work last February. When I first arrived to look at the property, there was significant damage to trees that were on the town part of the property that hadn't been maintained at all, that were very dangerous. And when we were doing the work, we only took down what was necessary. If you look at the property, when you come straight from the street, looking straight down, there's a fence line on the right side. That's where the property goes, fence line that way, 175 feet. If you look straight and directly in front of you, there's a huge oak tree that has these huge limbs that are hanging. I mean, I could have, even that one was questionable. There's a big pine there, also questionable. But we left, we purposely left those. I don't try to clear cut and do any of those things. As we went, when I showed up to do the work and I evaluated the property, I saw how the slope went to the side of the property, their existing land that they had, and there was no wetlands plants, none of the obvious, it wasn't wet, but again, we had a drought last year, so, I mean, possibly, you know, they weren't there. With the excessive rain that we've had this year, there's still really, you got to go way deep in there because there's a lot of vegetation to try and find something. I didn't see much. But when I was made aware, there was 3 trees that we took down that were abutting right close to that edge. They were dangerous, hanging directly at the house. And we put up a 100 linear foot silt fence. And with all the heavy rains we've had no washout or anything go through or go past that at this point. But the existing land that was the town property, we removed actually a dumpster full of trash and chairs and tires and benches and all those things. Our only intention here is to make it all usable and leveling it out. When you get closer towards that wetland side of the house, it was actually a lot of gullying, and there was a lot of pooling that occurred that made the water run more towards the house and then down that way. So I graded across and towards the house, but not up and over the hillside or anything like that. When we got right to that edge, when I did the silt, I pulled everything back, leveled it, and smoothed it out to what was existing grade of what was there, right at that edge. So we're hoping to, now that they put the pool, we actually moved a shed, because that's on the thing. We moved the shed actually further away from that side. We also, a water feature way away from that side, directly behind the pool. And again, we want to do a very small deck on the back side of that pool to a patio. So it's all centered, all the work is centered over here. We just want to make grass. We just want to grass that whole side area. Nothing more is going to go there. Even though we took down so many trees, we planted 11 more. 4 Quonset cherries that were all I had 2 caliper and then 2 3.5 caliper trees. I planted 2 blue spruces that were already 20 feet tall, and then the rest are green giants. So they're all within that side that we took down the trees. They're all fill in and, you know, and you try to put back, obviously. And we still do plan on planting, you know, some blueberry bushes and things around the shed and that water feature, just to, you know, more, you know, plantings just to bring it back.
All right. Any questions or comments from the commission?
So I guess to answer Evan's comment about the distance, that's not on the plan, but I can say when I did my site visit in regarding to the building permit for the above-ground pool, so that was about, I think, 60 or 70 feet away. So just for reference, because the plan that we're looking at, you know, the patio is kind of in line with that pool in addition to this water feature.
Yep.
So it seems like if everything's in line, then it should roughly be about 60 feet away.
Now, I took some measurements before I came here. So if you're looking at the property, so if we're standing with the house to our back, fence line's on the right side. So it goes 175 feet to the left, linear feet to the left. The pool and the patio and those things are 60 feet off that fence, which then would take them 115 feet off the end of their property from the wetland side. Shed is 40 feet from that side. So I try to shift everything as possible. I had already done that because that was all more level land to take care of, you know, nothing being able to wash that way. And like I said, slight slope grading to occur.
Yes, so my other comments are, so the RDA, I guess, would be filed for the acceptance of, like, kind of like an after-the-fact removal of shrubs, trees, et cetera,
Right.
that was taken down without permission of the Conservation Commission. When I had gone out to the site, obviously there was some earthwork activity happening. It looked like some of the soil was kind of pushed towards the wetlands, like down by the
Yep.
lower side of the property, so from facing the house to the left-hand side.
Yep,
So I think I had advised to just push that back.
and I did.
Okay.
I rectified that.
And can you confirm that the topographic conditions have remained the same?
Yes.
Okay.
The only change within that is if you were when you were standing towards that wetland side, you saw there was a door that went down into the basement, and there was a massive gullying that when the water came around, it came down in towards that gully that went right at the door. So the only shift was to make it go further straight away from the house instead of directly at the house. That's the only change. No direct runoff at the wetlands at all. I made a significant, I think it was, when I measured it, was probably 35, 40 feet of distance for the water to dissipate before it would start running towards that silt fence.
So the only reason I bring up the topographic conditions is that this portion of the property is in the 100-year floodplain. So again, what we don't want is, pushing soil from outside of the 100-year floodplain and
Right.
putting it into the 100-year floodplain. So that's why I asked that question and asked for confirmation on that.
The only thing was the hole, was the gully that was up against the house.
And the silt fence is in place today?
It's been in place since your visit.
Yeah,
I have a picture.
okay.
Would you want me to look at it for it?
I think I submitted
Oh,
a
you
picture
submitted
with
a picture of
the,
the silt fence?
yeah, with the application. I don't know how good my photography was.
We don't have it in our packet.
Silt fence?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you've confirmed that it's,
I don't recall seeing it, but I'm sure
Well,
I
it
can
wasn't
get
there
it.
when you did your
right.
original visit.
Yes.
Here, let me look. What's the name of your?
I was just gonna say, if the silt fence is there, just keep it in place until all the construction has been complete and stabilized.
Yeah.
any other questions from the commission? So how many trees have you replanted?
11.
11? All right.
Oh, here's it. May I show
Yeah.
you? May I approach?
I'm not a judge.
This is I'm from Millbrook, okay?
I grew up there. We all have our
So,
issues.
as you can see, it's way in the wrong direction. My bad. So, it's way in.
Yeah.
So I brought it right to the back, and I started at the top, and as you can see, it's right on the ground, there's been no wash.
And the last thing I'd say is, during my site visit, I didn't have any issues with the 25-foot no disturb zone and what was done at this property, but just be aware of the 25-foot no disturb zone, which means no disturbance of land extending 25 feet from a wetland edge.
Okay,
All right.
understood.
All right, if there's no further discussion from the commission, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody who would like to stand up, I ask that you approach the podium and introduce yourself.
My name is Gary. I live behind the.
Could we get your last name too?
Last name?
Oh, last name, Ong, O-N-G. Yeah. I want to know, they're going to put the fence, behind the pool?
We're not putting a fence
No.
behind the pool.
Okay.
No.
That's all I want to know, because I'm afraid a lot of kids, to go over to your pool.
Right, so where
Yeah.
your property is,
Yeah.
so you have a fence?
Yes.
And then there's a gate?
Yeah.
So what I do is, seeing they surveyed the property?
Yeah.
Where the survey markers are, I placed big boulder, I cleared all the crap that was piled in there, all the brush, the grass, the leaves, everything, and I cleared all that out, and I placed those rocks right on the property line.
Okay.
There would be nothing near that. That is actually just gonna be free land. Those trees that we planted, that's just gonna be grass to that point. There would be no fence
Okay.
in that area at this time at all. No plans.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Don't see anybody else approaching the podium. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Matthew Poirier, 15 Woodside Terrace, Assessors Map 85, Lot 70, as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So just to be clear, we're good now.
Do you want to, there's going to be an appeal period and stuff, but
Right,
overall, yeah.
Yeah, the permit gets issued within 3 business days.
okay.
Once the permit is issued, there's a 10-day appeal period. You guys can work at risk during that appeal period.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you. And like I said, we're just keeping it the way it is. It's just.
Sounds good to me.
Trying to make it maintainable.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item J, public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Thomas Wolfe, 353 Brown Street, Assessors Map 68, Lot 17. Is there anybody here for that? Not seeing anybody. Should we table this until?
No. This was the continuation. to
Oh,
get them
yes, all right, yeah.
No.
Let's deny them. No, I'm joking. All right, so yeah, we discussed that they don't plan on cutting down any more trees, and so we can close this one out. All right.
Yep. You have to-
This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody from the public who would like to make a comment, now's the time to do so. But not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make it.
Do I have a second?
So about the proposed development of parking spaces on 1438 Main Street, are we going to be discussing that today, or is that pushed to September 6th?
That one, that wasn't continued, right, Joe?
The 1438 was recently continued. So technically, the public hearing would still need to be opened, just because we're under certain timeframes. But typically, if the applicant wants to continue the project, we push it back to whatever date they want to arrive for that to discuss. So it is September 6th.
September 6th, thank you very much.
Just to be clear, he was asking about this agenda item L, right?
Yes.
All right. Or
1438 Main Street. You said 1438 Main Street, correct? Yeah.
438.
Yeah.
Agenda item
P, that's being continued. Oh, and it doesn't have a DEP file number.
But we could open the public hearing, right, and give them an opportunity to talk tonight?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The applicant's not prepared to talk about that project today, 'cause that's why they wanted to continue to the next meeting. But yes, you can still talk about it if you'd like.
If you want to voice your concerns tonight, you're more than welcome to, or you can come to the next meeting.
Either way,
Okay.
the public hearing will remain open and at least until the next meeting.
Okay.
So you'll be able to come back and speak to it at that point too.
Fine, so what do you guys want to come back on 6th or? 6th, okay, we'll come back.
All right, sorry about the inconvenience.
Thank you very much.
so, all right, we're closing the public hearing for Thomas Wolf, 353 Brown Street. Could I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Thomas Wolf, 353 Brown Street, Assessors Map 68, Lot 17?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Who? I have. So I might take these out of order. So I know your agenda item R, I believe, PPD Corporation. And you're for which? You, yeah, sorry.
Item number L.
L and O. All right. So we'll skip, I mean, they're mostly continuations, but let's skip to public hearing, notice of intent, David Newell of Crocker Design Group LLC on behalf of 1775 Andover Street, our ILLC 1775 Andover Street, Assessors Map 53, Lot 38, DP file number 305-1186.
Is this the right way to be facing, or should I?
We should have all of this, so yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Chris Mullery, civil engineer with Crocker Design Group, here today representing 1775 Andover Street, RI LLC, and their notice of intent application. This is our second hearing with you guys. We were last in front of the commission on July 19th. Since the last hearing, we have received comments from the engineering division, which we resubmitted plan sets online. The really only plan updates were updating some details, specifically the language of the handicap ADA sign and some specific notes for the proposed fire hydrant. We've also received approval from the ZBA. We submitted that decision to the town clerk on July 28th, so we're in the middle of our appeal period there. We have received a DEP file number now. Last time we were here, we hadn't got that from the state yet. That number is 305-1186. You guys also had a few questions for me that I couldn't give definitive answers on, so I just wanted to address those. Dan, I think you had a question about how many additional parking spaces there are. There's 30 additional parking spaces now. It went from 134 existing to 164 proposed. And Evan, you had asked about jet streaming the pipes. I was able to confirm that they're only using the vacuum pump to clean out the catch basins, and they will not be jet streaming the pipes. And all that's included in the long-term operation and maintenance manual. And I think with that, I'll just open it up to questions.
Any questions or comments from the commission? Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't. I think a lot was addressed at the last meeting, and I believe the only thing that was missing was really the DEP file number. So if the commission were to issue an order of conditions approving the project, The commission may want to consider the following conditions, which is standard conditions number 1 through number 4, and number 9 through number 19.
Yep. Yeah, you sent those to us earlier. They seem pretty standard.
All right. This is a public hearing. If there's no other questions or comments from the commission, this is a public hearing. If anybody in the public would like to stand up and ask any questions, now is the time to do so, but not seeing anybody. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion to approve the notice of intent, David Newell of Crocker Design Group LLC on behalf of 1775 Andover Street, RI LLC 1775 Andover Street, Assessors Map 53, Lot 38, DEP file number 305-1186, as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, going back one to agenda item L, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., Andover, Massachusetts, on behalf of Treehouse Brewing Company, Charlton, Massachusetts, 1879 Main Street, Assessors Map 84, Lot 18, DP file number 305-1185. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Mira Cousins with Civil Design Consultants.
And what would you like to present today?
Sure. So I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Treehouse Brewing Company, for the proposed overflow parking lot at 1879 Main Street. So we opened the hearing back in June and have continued the last few meetings to address comments we received from DPW. I do want to point out that DEP has not posted any comments on the project as of today. So I just want to give you a quick update on where we stand today and address any concerns you may have. So overall, our plans haven't changed much since the last time I was here. We did add some additional pavement striping to address pedestrian access and reduce the amount of parking spaces by 5 for a total of 138 spaces. We have a total reduction of 14,600 square feet of impervious area. Therefore, the project qualifies as a redevelopment project and needs to only meet the stormwater standards to the maximum extent practicable. All existing impervious area within the 100-foot riverfront area, which totals 15,290 square feet, is proposed to be permanently removed and revegetated. In addition, the applicant has agreed to restore the entire 25-foot no-disturb zone, where there's currently 3,850 square feet of impervious area. And so that area will be restored with native plantings and wildlife seed mix. So the current design achieves a reduction of impervious surface of approximately 0.34 acres, or 20.1% compared to the existing conditions, which we believe is a significant improvement to the site. So we submitted a letter to DPW about 4 days ago documenting how the site is complying with the stormwater management standards to the maximum extent practicable. They're currently reviewing that letter, and we hope to get a response from them by the end of the week. Also, we received an email from Joe Fontaine on July 6th regarding the bordering land subject to flooding performance standards, which states that the compensatory volume shall have an unrestricted hydraulic connectivity to the same waterway or water body. So if you look at our plans, we're proposing an infiltration basin that's located within the floodplain that's designed to infiltrate the recharge volume as well as store the 1-inch water quality volume. Approximately 67% of the site is located within the floodplain. So the basin has a berm at elevation 86.2 with a 10-foot wide riprap weir at elevation 84.95. So the WPA doesn't provide a definition of unrestricted hydraulic connectivity. It's my understanding that flood flows need to pass freely in an equivalent manner post-construction. I want to point out that there are existing depression storage areas on site in the floodplain. So to us, we have designed a basin that functions in an equivalent manner post-construction. So this was the best design we came up with to strike a balance between DEP, DPW's comments, and the client's need. So just want to get your thoughts on whether you have any concerns with the design that we've submitted, and we're open to any suggestions. So with that.
All right, any questions or comments from the commission? Give a little bit of time if anybody is mulling this over.
Joe, go first.
Joe, would you like to speak?
Sure. So I guess I just want to elaborate or just reiterate what the applicant has stated so far. So the applicant has submitted a document, basically an alternatives analysis in regard to addressing the maximum extent practicable standard for the mass stormwater standards and addressing that. So that is currently being reviewed from our engineering division. And then in regard to the compensatory flood storage area. So regarding this phrase of unrestricted hydraulic connection to the same waterway or water body, and this phrasing in the Wetland Protection Act regulations, I had thought of how if there's a storm and there's a stormwater basin constructed in the 100-year floodplain, there's going to be stormwater directed to that basin, occupying that volume in that storage basin. And part of that water being directed to that stormwater basin is from areas outside of the 100-year floodplain. So based off of that, I kind of went to the regulation and I saw that, or first I went to the regulation, I didn't see anything that specifically called out this issue. The regulations do say that you can construct a stormwater basin in the 100-year floodplain or bordering land subject to flooding, but it didn't really elaborate on whether the volume of that stormwater basin can be used as compensatory flood storage. So I inquired with DEP to see how that is interpreted, just generally, not project specific. And the response that I got, which is included in the meeting packets, was that the volume of a stormwater basin, according to Mass DEP, can't be used towards the compensatory flood storage volume to meet the performance standards of working in the 100-year floodplain because it does not provide a unrestricted hydraulic connection to the same waterway or water body. So that was Mass DEP's response. And I guess those are kind of the facts of the situation in regard to the 100-year floodplain.
So DEP does not go into detail about what that phrase, unrestricted hydraulic connection, means?
Correct. And DEP hasn't issued any comments on the projects. So we do have a weir in the pond that provides that connectivity, is kind of how we went about it.
Wouldn't a weir restrict the flow to some degree? So it's not unrestricted at that point? That's the
But
intent of the
looking-
weir.
Yeah, so I guess looking at this existing site, there are where the batting cages are, it's a depression storage area. We accounted for that storage volume. That also has a restricted, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
if
but
you're
this
gonna
sounds more
apply-
like if you touch an electrical system, now you're putting onto the new regulations. So now that you're upgrading the site, you have to follow the new regulations in the WPA in that way, shape, or form. So a weir in my mind is restrictive.
Okay.
So you're looking to add how many parking spaces?
138.
138? Because I guess I don't see an alternative proposal in which this issue isn't coming up. Have you looked into how many parking spots would be still maintained if you were to follow it to the letter of the law?
So we did provide an alternatives analysis in that redevelopment analysis that we submitted to DPW. I believe, Joe, you got a copy. I don't know if anyone else on the commission got a copy of that.
Which alternatives?
So that was submitted mainly in regard to address stormwater.
Correct, and we actually included an alternative analysis in the NOI packet as well. But we did take a look at, in order to comply with all the standards, what that would do to the parking lot. We would lose half the spaces. We'd be down to 60 spaces. But one thing that we did think about that could be a solution would be to get rid of that berm, have that entire side of the basin be at that weir elevation at 8495, and that way that would not restrict the flow from the wetlands to the pond to the upper parking lot. That is a unique solution. I don't think, we haven't done something like that, but this is a unique site. And obviously, we'd have to get DPW's review on that if we were to do that. But we thought that could be a solution, get rid of that berm so that you have that free flow.
All right.
That design that you just mentioned, that's just like something that hasn't been put on paper
No,
yet?
it hasn't.
Okay.
It was just something, I feel like there's a lot of options here. We're trying to strike a balance with all departments, and we're just open to any ideas. But that was something we thought could be a solution.
Okay.
Because, my main concern is that I know DP has not commented on this specifically, but when asked about hypotheticals, in a very rare move, they said easily, no, we don't consider that an option, what you're proposing to do. So it's either, we continue this and allow you more time to come up with a different solution, we approve it, and DEP is probably going to come back eventually and say, this isn't allowed, or we deny you, in which case, also not the ideal solution. So I would prefer you come back, we continue and you come back with a different proposal, because that's my concern, is that DEP is gonna, have some comments, and then we're gonna be watched
So
closely.
can you clarify what DEP said? I didn't get the response. That you reached out to DEP. This is the first time I'm hearing it, so their exact response, I know exactly what they said.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
I believe you had emailed me saying the berm would be the restriction, so
Yeah, so.
that's what I thought today's discussion would be about.
No, yep, it's, that's still accurate. right, so your question is what their exact response was?
Yeah.
I'm just going to read off what I asked them, and then I'll read the response.
Sure.
So I said, can the impoundment of detention of stormwater, e.g. detention/retention stormwater basins, constructed within BLSF count as compensatory flood storage area? Question mark. I know that an applicant is allowed to alter BLSF for the impoundment or detention of stormwater. Then I referenced some regulation, which I included below. But it seems counterintuitive that a stormwater basin constructed in BLSF can act as both compensatory flood storage area and an area where stormwater from other portions of the site will be directed to. However, I did not find regulatory context that would say otherwise. So that kind of what I had already stated from before, of like just me thinking about, it is counterintuitive to me that you're directing stormwater to a basin and then you're counting the volume of that stormwater basin for both stormwater and compensatory flood storage. So that was kind of the beginning of my inquiry, or of this inquiry. So then the response from that was, that's an easy no, period. I've been asked that question before, and Jill, who I assume is Jill Provincial of Mass DEP, confirmed that all those SWM BMP, so stormwater management best management practices, may be constructed in BLSF. Their volume can't be used from compensatory flood storage because the volume will be taken up with stormwater. Even if they say they are adding to the comp storage volume to what's required for the BMP to meet stormwater standards, a stormwater detention pond won't have an unrestricted hydraulic connection to the same waterway or water body. So that was the phrase that we were talking about, because there will be a pipe and or berm that separates the BMP from the water body. And that's it.
Okay, so if we were to get rid of the berm, we took a look at not including the storage in the pond, we would still meet the storage volume calculations, and we'd have an unrestricted hydraulic connectivity without the berm. Is that something?
Yeah, so I think if you have an unrestricted hydraulic connection, which to me is based off that response as well, like there's no impediment of flow, so it's kind of like a nice transitional from the river that's flooding. So it's nice transitional to whatever that elevation is. So if you get rid of that berm, and if you can, still meet the traditional performance standards of BLSF, then that would seem okay with me, because that seems to address all of the performance standards. But that's still just not on paper.
Correct, yeah. It was just something we thought about.
Can you infiltrate stormwater on that side, or is the groundwater table too low?
We are infiltrating, so we do have a 2-foot separation.
Okay.
It is high groundwater, so that's all the constraints that we have. We have floodplain, which we can't mess with the grades, and then we have high groundwater. So those are the two major constraints that we have on site that's limiting really what we can do. We are providing recharge, but we also are proposing 14,000 square feet less impervious area. So technically, we are providing recharge, but it's just a balance of trying to comply with all the standards and everything in the floodplain. And again, we'd still have to go to DPW, get their thoughts on, so it could be a back and forth thing again. And once we submit this to DEP, they might come back with comments about that, but.
What is the berm doing currently?
So you need a foot of freeboard over the peak elevation of the 100-year storm. So that's what's setting that 86.2. So in the 100-year storm event, the pond fills up to 85.2. So you need a foot of freeboard. So if we get rid of that, DPW, they might come back with, you need that foot of freeboard, we get that, but kind of explaining the situation. This is a redevelopment project, maximum extent practicable, so, yeah. But we're kind of
That's
taking.
why I wanted to have this discussion first, because, if the basin's not going to work, then that's obviously going to affect the conversation of stormwater. So I think it made sense to kind of go through this first.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And you don't have to give me like an answer, just kind of wanted to throw out a solution that we thought might work. And it seems like, just kind of want to get your thoughts on it, basically.
Dennis or Steve, any thoughts?
It's a tough lot to do this on.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a real tough lot.
Yes.
You're walking a tightrope here.
And it's been what it is for a long time, so we're all looking forward to doing something else with it, improving it, but.
I know the site pretty good.
Yeah.
The water, pretty tough there.
The thing is, though, like Evan stated, you touch it, you got to go to the new standards. So, and I don't think somebody wants to build a 60 or 70 person parking space, because that's cost prohibitive, most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah.
I can say for myself, we want to see things done, but they got to be done by the numbers.
So if there were no berm, and like we were talking, like there's a nice transitional from the river that's flooding, so the Shawsheen that's flooding, to the 100-year floodplain, like is there a balance to, like if you get rid of that berm, do you think that having that nice transitional area will result in less parking spaces?
So we'd still have the pond, right? Just the top of that pond would be at the weir elevation, which is at 84.95. So then the bottom would still be at 84, so there's going to be about a foot depth. It's not a transition.
Okay.
But the idea would be that it would be unrestricted at that point.
Okay.
Looking at a foot by foot increment, looking at the performance
Right.
standards, how it's written
Yeah.
for BLSF.
That's,
We'd address that concern, but then we have other issues with, we don't have the foot freeboard now at this point.
okay.
So nothing would have to change in terms of the parking lot if we got rid of that berm and if we're in agreement with all parties.
Okay.
And another solution would be to convert that infiltration basin into like a rain garden. That would get us the TSS removal, but we don't get the recharge. So there's always like, we can get one thing, but we can't get the other. That's the tricky part with this. And the reason why we put together this redevelopment analysis that we submitted to DPW was that we couldn't meet the 44% pretreatment. So it's one component out of the 810 standards that we couldn't meet. Just to give you a bit of background on that.
All right, so
I think we need to be creative on.
Yeah.
I think you folks need to be creative on
Okay.
coming back with something a little bit, and it's going to cause the vicious cycle again.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there open for public input at all or suggestions?
So this is a public hearing.
Is not.
It is, if you would, I haven't opened it up to the public yet, but.
I just had a thought on a solution and it may be harebrained.
I'll let you decide if you want.
Yeah, of
All
course.
right, I just ask that you introduce yourself for the record.
Up at the
Yeah, okay.
microphone, yeah.
Now we're going to make you work.
For our meeting minutes.
Paul DiMaggio, just wasting your time. You've already considered permeable pavement,
So the issue is we have high groundwater.
right? You said there was about 2 feet to the water table?
Yes, you need like a 2.5 cross-section of porous pavement, and then you need a 2-foot separation, so you need like 4 feet.
There's no alternate, no variations to it in the code?
No, that's the minimum cross-section of a porous pavement. We did look at that.
They would have thought of that.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky situation. I guess at this point, I would request that we continue this and you can come back with a separate, or an alternative solution. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure what that would be, but.
So as of now, how it's designed now, it's something that you're saying would not comply with the performance standard is?
Yeah, according to DEP.
Okay. Would we be able to get a copy of that response from DEP by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Public record.
Could read it to you again.
You're just starting to like that.
Good for the meeting minutes.
All right, so I guess we can send that letter to you. Did you have?
No, we're just going to continue this?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Could I have a motion to continue?
We open the, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm not closing the public hearing just yet. But could I have a motion to continue public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., Andover, Massachusetts, on behalf of Treehouse Brewing Company, Charlton, Massachusetts, 1879 Main Street, Assessors Map 84, Lot 18, DP file number 3051185, to the next available meeting, per whatever you find most appropriate. I won't hold you to the next meeting if it takes longer than that.
Okay, great.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. And now, agenda item R, enforcement order, PEPD Corporation, 600 Woburn Street, Assessors Map 3, Lot 82.
You fall asleep.
Good evening, Paul DiMaggio, Pepsi Corp., who's always got a mouthful of ideas. No teeth, but ideas. I think we're here to follow up on the breaking of the order of conditions with that cement truck that cleaned out right in the edge of the wetland. About a year ago, I think, maybe 9 months.
Yep.
This has been going on for quite some time, but I thought,
Is it a year and 9 months?
yeah, I thought at this point, everything's reestablished. It's probably in better condition than it was before, right?
Yeah, I think Joe was able to go out and see it. I saw it a couple of weeks ago, and it looked like the Amazon, but everything does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the enforcement order, just to recap, was issued because I was responding to a complaint about a concrete truck emptying into the buffer zone of wetlands. So upon further inquiry, there was some clearing of the buffer zone in addition to that concrete issue. Let's see. Okay. So the enforcement order essentially required the applicant to prepare a restoration plan, which they had done last year.
And I can't remember, I think it was planted after the growing season.
Yeah.
I think maybe August, September,
So the applicant did prepare the restoration plan. It included like a suite of different shrubs, trees, et cetera. I did a recent site inspection to just see how that was coming along. And as you can tell in the photos that I provided, it does look really well, looks revegetated nicely. I don't believe there was a requirement in the enforcement order to do like monitoring over 2 growing seasons or whatever. It was just kind of to plant these, or just go by the restoration or planting plan, see that it was actually completed. And since it has been completed and looks good to me, there's even conservation signs installed throughout. The commission may think that it's appropriate to kind of release the enforcement order.
Yeah, I thought last year you did want to see it, I think, for one growing season, which we had, so we pushed it off till this summer, for after the spring.
Yep.
And so everything looks good to me in the pictures.
Yeah, looks nice, yeah.
So I don't think this is just kind of like there's no like regulatory method of releasing the enforcement order, just kind of the commission recognizing that it's a return to compliance. And if the commission finds that, then, I'll issue some letter to you just so it's documented.
Sure.
Do it, Joe. Write the letter.
Can I have a motion for Joe to write a letter?
I second it, right?
All those in favor? All right, I think this is it.
Well, yeah, we're just beginning, because we got to get the order conditions done for the building that caused, the cement truck to be on site anyway. And I think I would like to, Joe, give you a call and maybe go in and go over the order conditions.
Sure.
Just so I know. I mean, I think our engineer knows how to do it, but.
I hope so.
Yeah. I'd like to find out as well and get that going. We still haven't got an occupancy permit because the fire communications, the bidirectional antenna, is like not installed yet. It's just about in the process. The final thing, if I can, is I noticed in reading back through the order of conditions, I probably should have mentioned it to you, that it expired in June. It was issued during COVID in 2020. And is that a big problem? Or is that an issue
If it expired, you'd have to reapply, right?
You would have to reapply.
Yeah.
And that's the engineer would do that?
Yes.
You would think? Okay.
Yeah.
Then we better get that done so that he can come in here, because I think we're pretty close to getting it cleaned up, finished off.
Is there any new construction, are you guys just haven't filed for the certificate of compliance yet, or is there still new construction?
The police department, fire department's been in a bunch of times, so we've been able to use most of the building until we get the BDA in. They've been cooperative, and we were able to clean up the existing plant because there was more room available. But the BDA system was, in fact, not known about. I mean, should know about things from 2013, but apparently I didn't, and neither did the electricians. So we were real late in that game, which required, the inspection of what the transmission readings between the inside and outside for the first responders.
So
that's the only thing that's held it up.
So my question is there anything that From a purely like a site perspective, like, is there
No, I
anything,
think the sites,
like, could you file for the certificate of compliance today?
probably, we have the as-built plan.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't have the official. I think we've got some sort of, and it's not even in writing, occupancy, temporary usage. But yeah, I think we're ready to file for that, except for it's expired.
Well, okay, so if you talk with your engineer and they think that everything to date is, can comply with that order, then, like, if you don't have any site work to do and you're just talking about like things with fire and police.
Inside the OC, yeah.
Yeah, so then you probably could file for the certificate of compliance because there's no like site work. Does that
Right.
make sense? Like
Yeah,
you're
I mean,
already
the
done.
only site work left is the second paving, and I don't think that's the second pavement. You know, the binder's down, the finish coat isn't on, but I don't think that's unusual.
Well, that's kind of site work.
Okay, well, then it isn't complete, though that's scheduled for either coming in September, I think. We were waiting for it to cool off again.
Well,
Not that it, or maybe dry up, I'm not sure which.
Both.
So, no, I'd like to get it behind us as well, and you probably want to get it off your books.
yes. All right, so sorry, did you guys vote on the return to compliance for
Do
enforcement?
we need to officially vote?
Yeah, I thought we did not need an official vote to return to compliance.
There's not a formal method, but it's up to you.
I think we're all in agreement, but I will take a motion to that
I
effect.
think Evan motioned for Joe to write the letter.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for Joe to write a letter, as discussed.
Is there a second on that?
I second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
I got the second in.
That as a return, this enforcement order, but that doesn't affect all the other.
Right. Well, and I thank you for letting me take the time to figure out what the next move and getting that squared away is, but thank you for,
And we thank you for doing a nice job cleaning that up, too.
yeah, we are looking to get another 300 kW solar on there. I mean, that's the next investment. So I'm sure we'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Before all of this, we have one tabled, and then we stopped at K. So public hearing, request for determination of applicability, Tracy Morrell, 7 Erland Terrace, Assessors Map 47, Lot 34. Joe, could you fill us in on the details? They are not proceeding with this application?
So they had submitted an RDA. They basically wanted to install an above-ground pool, and that above-ground pool, as shown on their plan, is in the 100-year floodplain. They didn't provide any sort of compliance information with working in the 100-year floodplain. In addition, there was an issue with how the wetland was delineated. I had made that known to them. I had subsequently met with their consultant recently to kind of just go over that wetland boundary, and we both concluded that the wetland boundary is much further, or much closer to the house than was led on by the site plan. So just based off the location of the wetland, I doubt that the project would proceed, although I haven't heard anything from the applicant themselves, but this is probably the third time that no one's shown up for this project.
All right.
So it's either the commission can continue until further notice, or the commission can kind of issue a positive determination of applicability based off of what has been submitted so far.
But the wetlands basically go up right.
Pretty much, yeah, to their deck.
And is that the 100-foot? Well, like, what buffer are we talking about?
That's like the wetland themselves.
The wetlands themselves, all right.
So the proposed area is in the wetlands? The pool?
Yeah, If not, it's right up to the edge.
Okay, so we would be in the 25?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Does anybody want to make a motion to issue a positive determination?
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do.
Who's making that motion?
All right, I'll make a motion to issue a positive determination of applicability for Tracy Morrow. 7 Erlin Terrace, Assessors Map 47, Lot 34, as discussed.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right.
I think there was a public hearing for that.
Yes, there was. We did this out of order. All right. I will open it back up to the public. Now is the time if anybody would like to make any comments on this, but not seeing anybody get up. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And now I'm just going to redo this motion for a positive, do I have a motion for a positive determination of applicability for Tracy Morrell, 7 Erlin Terrace, Assessors Map 47, Lot 34?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. We did L. Could I have a motion to continue to 9/06/2023 Conservation Commission meeting, public hearing, notice of intent, Beals Associates, Inc., Boston, Massachusetts, on behalf of Holton Bugby Company, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 1600 Shawshene Street, Assessors Map 112, Lot 4, DP file number 305-1181, and public hearing, notice of intent, Beals Associates, Inc., Boston, Massachusetts, on behalf of National Development, Newton, Massachusetts, 1600 Shawshene Street, Assessors Map 112, Lot 4, DP file number 305-1182 to the next meeting.
I'll make the motion to bundle those two meeting agendas to the next meeting.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. We did O. Public, could I have a motion to continue agenda item P, public hearing, notice of intent, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., on behalf of Dr. Nitesh Nahata, 1438 Main Street, Assessors Map 59, Lot 58, DP file not yet assigned, to the next meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Minor modification, Civil Design Consultants, Inc., 1660 Main Street, Assessors Map 73, Lot 40, DP file number 305-1139. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Mira Cousins with Civil Design Consultants.
And what would you like to do today?
Yep, so we requested a minor modification to the order of condition, file number 305-1139 for the Gordon Mansfield Veterans Community, proposed at 1660 Main Street. So this request is to adjust the location of the approved erosion control line approximately 2 feet to the north, which is closer to the wetland, and which will result in approximately 400 feet of temporary impacts within the 25-foot no disturbance buffer. So the change is required to allow for the placement of sheet pile needed to construct a 1-to-1 rock riprap slope as previously approved. And we submitted a plan showing the location of the new erosion control line that we're looking to get approval.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
How long will you move the erosion control for, the duration of the project after that?
Correct, throughout the whole construction.
Joe, do you have any questions or comments?
My only comments are that I recommended presenting this to the Concom just because it was further encroachment into the 25-foot no disturb zone. If the commission allows for this minor modification, I would just suggest that these temporary impacts that are made are just like there's some sort of, planting or, just making sure that they are temporary impacts and that the area is brought back to its original condition. So that would kind of be like so for these minor modifications, I, kind of send out a letter just as an understanding of what was said. So that would just kind of be part of the understanding, if the commission agrees.
Any pushback on that?
Bring it back to its original.
Yep.
I mean,
All right, could I have a motion to approve the minor modification as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item S, emergency certification, Martel Crane Service and tree removal of Orca, Massachusetts, 18 and 25 Druid Hill Avenue, Assessors Map 98, lots 127 and 128. Joe, could you fill us in on that?
Yep, so this was an emergency certification issued for the removal of 4 trees. So basically, there's 2 trees on 18 Druid Hill and 25, and 2 on 25. Both of them, or all of them, were either dead, dying, or decaying, and also pose a threat to human health and safety by kind of being close to someone's home. So I thought it was reasonable to issue this emergency certification to not delay the work. And I would refer the commission to the emergency certification, section D, for the special conditions, which are, just making sure that there's no tree debris left behind and all that jazz.
Any questions or comments from the commission? Not hearing anything. Could I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification?
Make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Agenda item T, tree cutting for 740 North Street, Assessors Map 51, Lot 3. Joe, could you fill us in on these details?
Yep, so this is kind of a non-typical issue that the commission comes across because, so basically there was illegal tree cutting on town-owned property which had occurred behind 30, 40, and 50 Germano Drive. Basically, the town owns a thin strip of land, probably about 20 feet wide, that goes behind those properties. And that thin strip separates the rear property boundaries of people on Northgate Road and the rear property boundaries of people on Germano Drive. So it kind of acts like a buffer for those 2 properties. It's not, it doesn't appear to be in a jurisdictional area, just based off site visits and aerial imagery, but it is, this land is under the management of the Conservation Commission. So this goes back to February. I've inquired with town council on kind of how to proceed with this situation, considering it is unusual. There has been a police report filed with each of these residences, so they have had contact with the police, and the police have generated a report that's in the meeting packet material. So that led to the conclusion that we kind of need a survey of that area to determine where exactly town boundaries are and what was done. So that was done. So there was a survey, and there were stakes in the ground. So then I conducted a site visit with the town engineer to kind of quantify what impacts were done. Some of the trees that were cut were stump grinded, so we kind of had to make an approximation based off of that, because some of it was just big piles of mulch. So in the conservation agent thoughts document, I kind of list out if I'm looking right behind each house, I kind of list out how many trees were cut, what their diameter were, and maybe some comments, whether they were freshly cut or not. In addition, because it wasn't, I had somewhat of an idea of how many trees were cut behind each of the properties, but because there was some stump grinding, it kind of muddied the waters. So while I was doing my site visit, I kind of measured a control area, which is basically an undisturbed section of that forest, which is 50 feet long and 25.5 feet wide. And I kind of attempted to quantify how many trees and shrubs were occupying that space as kind of a way to compare what is likely in those areas that were cut. And that's also listed for the commission. So for example, in this control area, there was a total of 21 trees and shrubs, 14 of them white pine, 3 red maple, 2 red oaks, and 2 black cherry. Some of them were decent diameter, 24 feet, 2 feet in diameter.
Why don't you just contact Northeast Tree Company to see what they cut down? Because weren't they the contractor that cut and grinded the stumps?
Is that in the police report?
Yeah.
I can. I don't know if.
Yeah. Did a lot of effort, it sounds like.
Well, I guess going through the homeowner, I guess, was determined to be the best solution first, but yeah, I can do that as well.
What would you try to find out, just how many, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have that record.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean, we can always reach out and stuff.
Because I think ultimately I doubt they're going to be like, oh yeah, we actually did this. We cut down. But I guess this was just kind of a discussion for the commission to start on, how to determine corrective action, how it should be pursued. I don't necessarily expect an answer today, but it's just kind of something to think about.
So I guess what jurisdiction do we really have? I know you're saying the land was deeded to the Conservation Commission, so in turn, wouldn't that be deeded to the town as a whole? So it's not really our land per se, it's the town's land.
But it's under our not jurisdictions.
Not under the jurisdiction from like our bylaw or.
So wouldn't this just be an ordinance thing? Is there an ordinance that says you can't cut down trees on town property?
Well, so
and then we follow the town ordinance?
I think the ordinance or law that's being violated is destruction of property.
So why don't we just go to the ordinance and figure out what the fine, there should be a schedule of fees, right? In the town order, I haven't read it thoroughly, so. Most ordinances just have a schedule and fees for, if there is X, Y, or Z, this is what the fine or the fee is associated with that. Because I don't want to come up with something on the fly and try to come up with a new fee that's not adopted by the ordinance, because there's nothing justifiable and nothing really, we don't have any grounds to charge them X amount or do X, Y, or Z if it's not in the ordinance. That's my thought.
So, assuming there's not.
We can't do anything, how do we?
So, we can't, my first thought was like, oh, let's ask for a restoration plan because they cut down not private property, but somebody else's property, and it should be restored to what it was. But I don't know, as the quote-unquote owners of the land, do we have the authority to just demand that they do that?
So I think if you look at this from, like, if someone, like, I don't know, wrecked your shed.
Yeah.
Like, that's destruction of property. There's not going to be like a predefined thing saying, okay, I'm gonna look at this and it says,
Well, it usually says fines up, I mean, you're talking about like fines or jail time, like, that's why like every crime in any way, I mean, use crime in quotes, but anything illegal has, that's why it's prison sentence are up to 20 years or the fines up to 10,000, because then you can use your discretion within that. So even within the ordinance, or if we want to go to more of a legal code of destruction of property and try to find what those maximum fines could be and do it some way, shape, or form that. But I think we need legs to stand on to do anything. And I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't know what those legs are that we have to stand on anything to charge them, make them do anything, I guess.
Okay.
Like, you used the example of a shed, if somebody destroyed a shed,
Yeah.
you know, if it was privately owned property and somebody destroyed your shed, you can sue them to recoup the cost of the shed. It's a tree, like if it's town property, I don't know what allows, like, not that I'm, like, definitely not suggesting we enter a lawsuit over this, but like, in that same scenario, it would be like, one private property would sue the other private property and say, I want these trees back. And, you know, they would likely have to replace the trees. But I don't know, like,
So,
how to,
I guess, so I see that perspective of just like trying to follow a law and trying to get like a defined way of how to proceed. I guess my comment to that is I can certainly ask town council about that. We did like kind of mull over the details of what the situation was, and this was kind of like the procedure that we landed on.
all right, so he's already been, this is,
I think if there was a law, and I can double check though, but if there was a more defined path, he would have, you know, made me aware of it.
I think I've seen this civilly.
yeah, that's what I mean. is that
Okay, I've
civilly-
seen this civilly where they attached a number per tree.
Yeah.
But we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah, that's
It's
where-
not one of us.
Even if we were allowed to do that, I no way want to do something like that extreme. Like, I think
You know,
something
per,
needs to be
like
done.
Evans, you know, saying is, you know, where's our guideline? Where,
Yeah.
you know, where's our rule?
Because it's not just town-owned land that they ask the Conservation Commission to take care of. It's open space. Like, what are the restrictions on open space land that, like, if it were wetlands and they came to us to cut down trees, like, I don't think would be able to approve it, even if, you know, it wasn't our wetland jurisdiction.
Okay. So I can take these questions and present them to town council and then report back on the 6th.
Because.
Does that sound good or great?
I think we got to start somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that sounds good. Is there anything else on this issue?
I'm just reading this last paragraph again. All right, yeah. I don't have anything else unless anybody would like further discussion. Not hearing anything, I'll open it up to Wetland Protection Fund.
So this is a request to use Wetland Protection Fund, so $784 from the Wetland Protection Fund to have all Concom and their agent be members of MACC. And a second request to use Wetland Protection Fund, so $20 from the Wetland Protection Fund to have the Concom agent maintain membership of the MSMCP, which is Massachusetts Society of Municipal Conservation Professionals.
Good.
Yeah.
So have any of your petty cash that we gave you? Is that why you're adding the $20 to this?
No, I don't really use that, because I think that was issued for more, I don't know, I guess I didn't consider that like a petty cash thing, like if I needed equipment or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the $804 requested out of the wetland protection funds for the items discussed at this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Agenda item V, discuss, what is it? Discuss changes to wetland protection bylaw and regulations. Any conversation on that? Just in case there's anybody watching, this is all the updated, or the proposed bylaw change is available on the town website. You can go to the conservation page, and there's links to various documents explaining, various documents for the changed, the proposed change.
Joe, what are the next steps? When does this actually move forward and get adopted?
So it's going to be on the town warrant for the next town meeting, which is in October.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we also, I believe we also have to propose this to the finance committee, and they'll make their recommendation. But I believe their recommendation is to follow whatever we've suggested. Typically, I don't know for certain that that's an automatic thing, but I believe we do have to present it to the finance committee.
Right.
But don't take my word on that. All right, any old business, new business, admin reports?
So there was a modified agenda, which is agenda item W,
Oh, yeah,
which I sent out in an email.
yes.
Got that, yep.
Agenda item W, emergency certification culvert near 192 East Street, Tewksbury, Department of Public Works.
Yep, so I issued this today. So basically, there was a sinkhole that opened up on East Street as a result of a failing culvert pipe. It's a 24-inch corrugated metal pipe. The sinkhole had exposed like two gas mains. It had since been patched by DPW as like an immediate response to just fill it with stone and pave over it. But that solution is not certain whether that's a great solution long-term or even temporarily. Other alternatives were explored, such as, sleeving the existing culvert pipe, and using that as a temporary solution so that it could be properly permitted, but that doesn't really address the underlying issue of erosion occurring and, the potential opening up of another sinkhole. So an emergency certification was issued, and again, reference to the conditions in section G of that emergency certification.
So wait, do we have, I'm not seeing any, do we have an emergency certification that we have to?
Yes.
All right. I think my internet just cut out.
But basically, the conditions are, sediment controls, silt sacks and catch basins, kind of standard best management practices stuff. And then I'll be following up with them. And there's also the provision that once the work is completed, I can do a site visit, see if the commission wants to require any restoration or anything else if there is a lot of impacts.
All right.
Who was that, Joe? What are you?
Near 192 East Street, so it's right past Lee Street. Yeah.
I think we get it fixed. I don't like the idea of gas lines being exposed.
Yeah. All right, so could I have a motion to ratify the emergency certification?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, now, admin.
I believe agenda item F was tabled and never addressed.
I think F and G were.
G also?
G was addressed.
Yeah, he came over.
Done? We do G? Oh, yeah, we did.
All right, so 36 Shady Lane. Should we just continue that to the next hearing, or you were expecting somebody to?
I was, it's regarding tree cuttings. I can go through it briefly if you want.
Yeah, a brief summary would.
So basically, they want to cut down 11 trees. They're mostly healthy, but some are right along the Shawshene River. They're mostly healthy, but they are right next to the applicant's home. Let's see. I'm trying to be brief. Hold on now. So I just recommended that if the commission were to issue a negative determination of applicability, they consider the following conditions. All tree debris shall be taken off-site, no stump grinding for trees along the riverbank, and photographs shall be provided by the applicant to the conservation agent after the work has been completed. A follow-up site visit may be conducted by the conservation agent. And so there's photos included for the commission to look at, those trees, and the applicant did do a good job of kind of showing the photos for himself and circling which ones were to be removed.
So 11 trees in total?
Around there, like 10 to 12.
All right. All right, so could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Isaac Reyes, 36 Shady Lane, Assessors Map 99, Lot 78, as discussed at this meeting?
It's a public hearing.
Oh, it is a public hearing. If there's anybody in the public who would like to make a comment, now's the time to do so. Not seeing anybody, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Could I have a motion for a negative determination of applicability for Isaac Reyes, 36 Shady Lane, Assessors Map 99, Lot 78, as discussed at this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. All right. Anything else? Any?
Nope, no new business, no old business for me.
All right. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Next meeting is September 6th, 2023.